Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hart's Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Tuesday, October 15th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. Clearly, some reversals today. I will go over some of that in this video and talk a little bit about overall market dynamics. Also, thank you for I got some nice feedback from some people about yesterday's video. In case well, first of all, please review yesterday's video if you want to hear me kind of go off on a little bit of a rant. What I was specifically talking about yesterday was that sometimes Twitter makes things a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of hype on Twitter. There's a lot of victory laps and so forth, and it can really make if you're just looking to basically work at trading and become better at trading. There's a lot of distractions in my opinion. So there's also a lot of very good followers who are very honest about what they're doing, but there's also a lot of swindling going on and a victory lap every time. So I'm not going to go through that today. I did that in yesterday's video, so I just wanted to mention it so that if you want to, you can review it. But one of a couple of things, and I will just reiterate a couple of things that I talked about yesterday. And I was just saying that we had a lot of momentum to the upside, and it was also we started to get into the short covering portion of the rally, which again, nothing is 100%, but a lot of times we go through when we kind of cycle up like we have over the last week, right? We'll start with, hey, some of the leaders are outperforming and breaking out. And I consider NVIDIA one of those names, regardless of what happened to NVIDIA today, right? We saw software break out. We saw cyber names break out to new highs. We saw financials break out to new highs. We also saw industrials, right? Those have been the market leaders. As you begin to as days go by and you cycle through that through the rally that you have, uh it begins to kind of get mature. And one thing I would note too is, as I've been doing this for a long time, these moves get faster and faster. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes, but nowadays it could be everything could happen in like 2 to 4 days. And we kind of got to that yesterday where we saw, a lot of short covering. And part of that, if you think about it, is because hedge funds, which sometimes just their positioning is way off, and they're forced to kind of cover their positions. And it just felt like there was a lot of short covering that took place yesterday. Now, sometimes that can again, it's all approximations. And, having an understanding of this can kind of help you navigate the market. And sometimes it's 1 to 2 days that these short cover. Sometimes it could be a few days, depending on how short those hedge funds are. Sometimes it takes them multiple days to cover shorts. But anyway, that's kind of just a very quick life cycle of the of how how a rip higher works. Again, it's not always 100%, but it kind of helps. And so one of the things that I talked about was that in my watch list that I provide members every weekend, and obviously I add to those names as the week progresses. But if you go back and you look in yesterday's video, there was many more things that were green on this on here, and I had mentioned specifically that you know that doesn't normally carry all the way through a week. No, like nobody's that good. I'm not. I wish I was that good to say I'm gonna put together a watch list in the beginning of the week, and every day it's just going to continue to get better and better and better. Sometimes we had that last week where it was kind of incremental, and then on Friday it finished basically on the highs. When you start off the week where things are sizzling hot, they usually cool down a little bit, right? And again, all that is just being a little bit of realistic. So I just wanted to point that out. There are still a number of names that are up decently, but there's not as many as there were yesterday. And I even added like two more names onto the watch list today. So you kind of look at this and a couple of these names like Upstart hit that VPOC yesterday and sold off a little bit, right? So that's what else actually worked well today? This lunar trade, which I did not put that one on. SMMT biotech got going a little bit. So that said, let me go through a couple of the indices. And what I find interesting here is, I'll use. So first of all, I use, if you're new to watching my videos, I use a proprietary indicator called the MarketWebs, which looks at volume at price, and it looks at it much differently than some other traders do. Some people will put a volume profile like on the side of their screen. That has a lot of shortcomings, in my opinion, because you're not looking at time. And also, a lot of folks use anchored VWAP. That's fine as long as these things can help you make money. But in my opinion, the anchor VWAP is a little bit subjective because you're the one who's doing the anchoring and you have to figure out what time frames to anchor. I like, the reason why I like the MarketWebs so much is because they work on multiple time frames, and we're not being there's no subjectiveness to it. Like we're not tinkering with them. It's the same concept every week. So for example, like this yellow box that you see here, that's the value area for this week, and it's based on all of last week's activities. So what you're basically looking at, like when you start the week, is I want to know whether or not we're breaking above the value area, whether or not we're in what's called price discovery, because I am a trend trader and I want to know if things are trending. So we started the week, right? And we broke out of this value area, which again is based on all of last week's activity. We broke out of this and we actually did basically a U-turn back here. And I just had somebody ask me on Twitter, they're like, oh, that means we're going to bounce tomorrow. So, you know, I understand where this comes from, right? And it goes back to my examples about Twitter yesterday, right? Twitter always there's folks on, I'll just call them folks on Twitter, right? They want to tell you, oh my God, we're coming into support. We're going to rip higher, right? That's drama. Maybe that sells subs for some people and it gets people excited. That's not really how trading works. Trading works is if you're breaking out of an area, which you are here, you want to stick with the trend and you want to be careful once it evaporates. So of course you could use trailing stops, but would I be watching? So this is a level of interest, 577.70. It's not necessarily, oh my God, we're going to get to that level and then we're going to rip back to the upside, right? That's sales, right? I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in making money. So what I would be watching is if we hold, yeah, that's a nice level to go long against. But you got to get that we're going to rip higher attitude right out of your head, right? What you want to do is that's a level to go long next, and then let's see what happens. I don't know what events are going to happen tomorrow that are going to push the market in one way or another, but it is a logical place where I can go long and use a stop price just below. Because in this game of trading, right, you're going to have, one of the best traders out there in the, Renaissance Capital, right? And their average win ratio is like 52%. They win 52% and they lose 48%, plus or minus. I'm going off estimates here from what I normally hear. So you have to be comfortable with, hey, you try a trade here and some event happens tomorrow and we break into the value area, I'm out. Right. But there's also a possibility that, yes, we could bounce here and begin to gravitate after we've kind of shaken some weak hands out of the market. So that's where I view it as, a positive that we have not broken into the value area. So there's no like change right now for me in terms of the stance. Now, when we look at this in terms of and again, sometimes it's interesting to start, usually you want to start on the weekly chart, go to the daily chart, and drill in, maybe go to the 1 hour chart. Sometimes I like to do it backwards because you see certain things developing, right? And here I see that we're just kind of pushing. Remember in yesterday's video, I talked about how we were a little bit extended above the 5-period moving average, right? And I thought it might be more prudent to be taking targets going into that type of move that we saw yesterday, right? And again, if you don't believe me, review yesterday's video, right? And so now we've kind of filled this gap, right, on the SPY chart, and we're into the 5-day moving average. So yes, this would be a better spot, I think, provided that we see, buyers kind of step in here a little bit. But this would be a better place to get long than versus yesterday's close. Again, just my opinion. And then if that does not hold, we also have another level of support down here. All right. So let's wait, because what's nice about this is I could see not only this, I've got two versions of the MarketWebs on here, right? The current one and the next higher. So the current one is looking at this period's valuary, which is for the 1 hour for the week. And that gray box down there is the valuary from the other screen, which is the daily chart. And you could see, and it's perfectly labeled here for you, and it's 574.43 is your next level, is your next level of interest. So I like the fact that in SPY, we've got some support coming up and pretty nearby. One just 3/10 down, one another 8/10 down. So again, that kind of sets things for me for tomorrow. Did I put anything long on here for an overnight trade? No, not really. But I basically just stayed in some of the positions that I wanted to stay in, even though a few of them were down today. All right, let's talk about the Qs. Now the Qs are a different picture, right? And this is what I wrote this morning about the Qs, and I think I discussed it in yesterday's video too. But I should have this here for you. Was that here it is? So price. Uh, Hold on one second. All right, so this is what I said in my morning note for Substack, and you can get involved in this. This is the free, half of it is free. The other half of, like, if you want to see my positions and the watch list as it comes out, then you have to pay $40 a month, which is nothing. But if you want it for free, you could see what I said this morning. I said price is above the valuary for the month, right? And the new development is that the upside VPOC was taken out yesterday, and VPOC takeouts are a logical place for digestion in short-term pause. Well, why is it? Why is that? Because it's overhead supply, right? It's where a point of control for a given value area is where a lot of buyers and sell. It's the most activity in a given period, right? So if we don't revisit that point of control, there's a line that's automatically drawn here. And once price takes that out, it's just an area where obviously there's a huge amount of volume that has happened, and it really is overhead supply. Now, is it 100% certain that price stops there? No, it's not, because it does become a battleground with that overhead supply and new buyers. If there's more new buyers and those outweigh, or those it's like again, like a battleground area, if those new buyers overwhelm the existing sellers, then price is going to get above, right? And we saw that with, for example, like the China names, right? There was a lot of virgin point of controls that price was able to get through because there was a huge amount of short covering, and there was also a lot of buying that happened. But in this situation, the overhead supply won out, right? And of course, there was a story out today, but it is kind of funny that that story with ASML lined up with, a pretty interesting technical level. And as I said, that sometimes, so you can see digestion, you can see a rally stall, and sometimes you actually see a reversal. So it's too early to tell whether this is a reversal. But I think that earnings, as I said in the weekend video, that earnings are going to be on the forefront, and you could see this on the 1 hour time frame as well, right? And sometimes, it's not exact. Price will make an attempt to go a little bit higher, but you could see the very next hour, price came right back, right? This was yesterday in the morning. Price kind of dribbled higher like this, but again, getting slapped down right around this area. So again, it's not perfect. Like, I never want anybody to make a decision. Oh, we get to 496 and like I'm out. No, what you do is you could take a target and pay attention to how price behaves around that. And then once price kind of violates that, as I said here, whoops, sorry. Um, I said for further upside, watch this 496 VPOC. This is an important level to watch. So we break back below, you better be careful, right? And that's exactly what we had. That's exactly what happened today. And I went ahead and once we actually broke into the value area for the week, you could see I actually shorted the Qs today. People ask me sometimes, "Hey, do you ever do any shorting?" Well, yeah, when I do, when it's an important level. And I was actually on a call today. I had to take a call, so I was a little bit late on it, and put this on at 495. and was able, I covered it because I don't usually sit with, once I get a move, I do believe the market goes up over time. So hey, if I can make some money in the short term on a short, I usually do so and get out of it pretty quickly. But we do not know if this is notice that the bearish 80% rule is in effect. So we're kind of in no man's land. Right now we're at support a little bit from last week, just looking at price alone, but we're smack in the middle of the value area for the week. So the bearish 80% rule is in effect. And again, that means once you enter the value area from either above or from below where you haven't been in it, and there's an 80%, once you enter it, there's an 80% chance that you go from one side to the other, right? Again, it's not a 100% rule. It's an 80. Again, people think, oh my God, it's definitely going to happen. It's 80%, right? So it's a mixed picture for the Qs. Let's talk about IWM, which had some nice follow through today. However, talking about this, right? And I will sometimes, I know some people use this phrase where they talk about well, I'm not going to use the phrase, so I'm going to talk about something else. But this is a very difficult chart. I've talked about that all the time. Again, all I'm trying to do is be realistic. Yes, and if you're really good at selling rips and buying dips, right? And if you're not really a trend trader, then maybe this is something that you like. I like trends. I like things that are a bit more simple. To try to time every turn in this, that's I view as a much harder, more difficult game, but some traders like to kind of think that they can outsmart the market on every turn. And if you can do that, congratulations to you. But I think that this is very difficult. Now, there's been some levels to trade against. There's been a VPOC down here. We also hit this VPOC up here and faded. Um, actually, I don't know if that was a VPOC, but the VPOC was here. But down again, up again, down again, and we'll probably provide another opportunity for both players, longs and shorts. But this is not my cup of tea, and that's fine. There's plenty of other trades out there. There's a million other stocks to trade out there. So don't ever think that you need to figure every single chart or every single name on. If it's too difficult, right? It's like baseball, right? Baseball, you get three strikes and you're out, right? And that's the name of the game. But sorry, I should say that this is not like baseball. You could take as many pitches as you want, right? There's no rush, and that's the beauty of trading is that you're not under the clock, per se, and that you can only swing so many times or whatever. You could do whatever you like, and in this situation, this was a nice rally from the lows, but I would be pressed to think that we're going to get more of a rally out of here, right? So again, I'm a little bit more, um, for some reason I'm having difficulty thinking of the words that I'm trying to use here, but um, I have doubts. And the reason why I have doubts is, well, think about the index and what is it composed of, right? And how does it work? Well, first of all, there's roughly 2,000 names in IWM, and they are small caps. What happens to all the good small caps, right, over time, right? If a name that's really good and it's a small cap, and it becomes larger because it goes up in price, right? It becomes then a mid cap and it graduates to another index. So you're always dealing with now, you're always dealing with the lesser of the names, because the good names graduate and they go to the mid caps. The really good names in the mid caps graduate and go to the large caps, right? That's how it works. The leaders move up. So you're sitting with a basket of names that have not graduated and are having difficulties. Now, what can propel this group? What usually propels this group is low interest rates, right? And a lot of stimulus. And we don't have that right now, right? The Fed might cut interest rates, another 25, maybe 50 basis points. Is that going to move the needle and provide a whole bunch of new liquidity for the small caps? Are interest rates going up or going down? Now, it kind of brings us to what TLT did today, but over the last couple of weeks, interest rates have gone higher, right? And now they did. Now look at how we kind of dribbled outside of this value area for the year on Friday. and now we're back inside the value area. So this was a logical place of, again, going back to like logical places of support and resistance, right? Now we've actually gone back in, and this is a developing weekly candle, right? We have 3 more days of the week, but this is nice to see this. And so again, like if TLT was doing this and trending towards this top of the value area, that means that that interest rates are going down on the long end of the curve. And I would think that that would be good for small caps, but we're barely hanging on here. And again, there could be a trade that you do in small cap and TLT, but I don't know if that level of interest rates is really going to supercharge um, the IWM. So that's why I remain a doubter on IWM. And if it wants to break out, like, so here's my level, right? Prove me wrong, right? My level to watch here in IWM is 223.83. And we try to get above there and we could not do it today. So we'll see if tomorrow maybe can make another attempt. And then I'm happy to go long, right? And I did go long something today that's um, one of the areas that's in here, and I went long some biotech. We saw some call buying in the XBI, and I did take one target in this. Anything that I am a little bit is not like my bread and butter trading, I'm faster to take targets, right? Because I know that this is not something I'm as comfortable with trading. So I did take a target in XBI at 99.50. And ultimately, I will be looking to take another target, maybe even the trade off at 100 spot 97. Why would I be looking to do that? Because this is something else that's just trading in a range, right? This is not something that looks as strong as, say, this financials breaking out, right? These are your market leaders, right? XLF, um, IGV out to new highs. Now, by the way, all of these are coming in a little bit. So this is important to realize. Right? All these things, right? Cyber, right? Also had a little bit of revert. We talked about this in yesterday's, I think a little bit in yesterday's video too, that I was seeing a lot of red bars like that. So here's a situation, like where would I get back involved? And so we've got a breakout. That means this group is super strong. It's a market leader. And maybe this comes down. Maybe this 20-day moving average has to come up. So just be patient. The other thing I know traders don't like to do this, especially like newer traders. You got to have a little patience. Let these things come into you, and they'll set up again, and they'll provide good opportunities, right? And again, that's part of like the bad thing I'll say about Twitter is you've got numbnuts all the time who are looking to tell you, "Oh my God, this setup is so great, and this is going to rip higher." Right. And then it doesn't. And then when it goes lower, right, then they say the same thing. Oh my God, it's setting up again. It's going to rip higher. Right. And they're constantly trying to captivate your energy to get you involved. But really, what helps in trading, what I've learned over time, is to be patient and let setups come to you. This was a very nice move outside. Here's your trigger to go long, right? And then to be taking profits on the way up, right? Once it comes in and settles in, it's going to most likely have a good chance to set up again. But again, you got to wait for it, right? And be patient, right? And again, it all depends if that's what you're doing, if you're trading leaders like me, right? And staying away from things that are a mess, right? My battery's going here, so I'll probably leave it here for now. I know I'm not going over too many names here. I also went long some Walmart just to kind of give you a sense of. And by the way, like all of our setups that I provide these. Um, Here's our midday note, right? And I talked about how we're seeing an expansion of new highs, but I also provide all these setups in our trading room. So this is what you get from Substack, right? You get my thoughts on what the indices are doing, and you also get trade setups, and so I try to go through that. I try to make it as detailed as possible so that if you're not trading in front of the screens, if you're not in front of the screens all day long, if you're working part-time, then you can kind of catch up. But yeah, I mean, I like the strength and kind of switching gears a little bit while everybody's watching some high momentum names. I like the fact that something like a Walmart stayed around the highs of the day today, right? Just kind of shows, and this is a nice little setup. Again, it's a little bit slower moving, but hey, I talked about this name hitting a VPOC yesterday, Upstart, right? Take a look at where it stopped. Boom, right at the VPOC, right? And again, I went through this in yesterday's video. Sorry, I'm repeating myself so many times here, but this is where it stopped last time. Reverted back, found support. So again, be patient. Wait till it comes down to some support, and then look at it gear back up again. It's just the evolution of like how a name works or how a name can work. That's strong, breaks out, you take profits, you wait till it comes back into support. Maybe your support, maybe it's here that you went long or here, right? And then maybe you catch something like that and you know where to take, where your overhead supply lives. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.